polis yang tak makan rasuah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good day to everyone. Today, we are from Group 5 of AC220B6N. We'll be presenting a movie presentation for the subject of Business Ethics and Corporate Governance, or CRG650. The movie that we have chosen is Sheriff, Narko, Integriti. These are the group members. The group members consist of DHIA URRAIDA Binti Muhammad KAMAL, me, Muhammad KHALISH bin Muhammad INRI FARIMAN, NADHIRA Binti AZMAN, SYZEERA SHAMIMI Binti RIDWAN. This will be the contents that will be presented today in our movie presentation.
Firstly, I'll begin our presentation by sharing the synopsis of our chosen movie, Sheriff, Narko, Integriti. The story revolves around Sheriff Hussein, an internal police investigator assigned to track down a mysterious vigilante known as the Meth Killer, someone who has been targeting and murdering key figures involved in a major drug syndicate led by the notorious Tony Ifrit. As the investigation deepens, it reveals deep corruption within the narcotic departments, including officers working secretly for the drug lord Tony Ifrit. His suspicion also grew towards Officer Nazri, a man personally affected by cartel violence, and soon the line between justice and revenge begins to blur. Along the way, Sheriff discovers not only the identity of the Meth Killer, but also the presence of multiple traitors within the police force, forcing him to make tough decisions in pursuit of justice. In the end, the story brings to light how integrity can be tested in face of grief, power, and betrayal. And most importantly, it shows how far would someone go to uphold the law if it is true that the law itself is broken. And that is the brief synopsis of Sheriff, Narko, Integriti. Thank you. Now we will move to our next presenter.
Now, we will go to talk about stakeholders and its stakes. The first stakeholder we'll talk about is about ASP Sheriff, or Sherifuddin Hussein. His stakes is professional integrity, where Sheriff is trying to uphold his justice and eliminate the corruption within the police force, even at a great personal and professional risk. Secondly, it's about personal safety and justice. Sheriff, who is risking his life to eliminate these criminals, while also facing a betrayal within his department of team. Now, we'll be talking about the second stakeholder, which is Tony Ifrit. His first stake is about criminal empire. Tony, who is a ruthless drug lord, whose wealth, influence, and criminal operations rely on staying untouchable and keeping its business alive. Secondly, secrecy and control. Tony depends on his network of corrupt police officers and allies. If his operations are exposed by Sheriff, he risks losing his power, freedom, and also his life. Moving on to the next part of the presentation, I will be talking about the main villain and main hero of the film. The main villain, who is portrayed by Aaron Aziz as Tony Ifrit, who is a ruthless, cold, and highly intelligent criminal mastermind who runs one of the most feared drug syndicates in the region. Very strategic and calculated in managing his illegal operations, he also thrives on manipulations, intimidations, and violence, eliminating anyone who poses a threat to his empire. The main hero for this film is portrayed by Zul Arifin as a DSP Sheriff, or Sherifuddin Hussein, a dedicated and principled police officer known for his relentless fight against drug-related crimes and internal corruption within the Royal Malaysia Police (PDRM). He sacrificed personal relationships and safety for the sake of justice. His commitment often isolates him, making him both respected and feared within his department. Now, I will move on to the ethical dilemma that have been faced by the characters in the movie. I'll be talking about the villain's ethical dilemma, which is Tony. He is in dilemma whether or not to kill his corrupt police contacts to protect his empire. In this context, Tony suspects that some corrupt officers he pays off may betray him or talk under pressure from Sheriff's investigations. He must decide whether to eliminate them to protect his empire or keep them alive and risk the exposure from Sheriff. Killing them protects his impression for the short term, but increases the suspicions. Sparing them shows loyalty, but leaves loose ends. Tony's trust in his network is put to the ultimate test. Now, the second ethical dilemma that faced by the villain Tony is whether or not to kidnap Sheriff to regain more control. In this context, he is feeling threatened by Sheriff's progress, therefore, he considers taking him hostage to regain the control. He must choose whether or not to take a bold step that breaks his low-profile strategy, risking a full-blown war with the police department. It's a desperate move that could backfire, while it might buy his time, it pushes him into the open, breaking his calculated persona. It's a turning point in how far Tony is willing to go to stay in power. Now, I will be talking about the hero's ethical dilemma, which is ASP Sheriff. The first dilemma that he faces is whether or not he should arrest Inspector Nazri, who is killing drug dealers tied to Tony syndicates. In this context, Sheriff discovered that the mysterious meth killer is actually Nazri, a fellow officer who is killing drug dealers that is tied to Tony syndicate. Sheriff must decide whether to arrest Nazri as the law demands him, or let him continue knowing that Nazri is targeting criminals that the justice systems can't seem to touch. This actually tests Sheriff's loyalty to the law versus his empathy for someone who, like him, is frustrated by the system's failures. Arresting Nazri upholds justice, but at the cost of silencing a man fighting for it in his own way. For the second ethical dilemma of the hero ASP Sheriff is whether or not to involve ASP Shazlin in a dangerous sting operation as the meth killer to help lure Tony into the trap. In this concept, Sheriff asked Shazlin, which is Nazir's sister, to pose as the meth killer to help lure Tony into the trap. He must choose whether or not to involve her in a high-risk operation that could expose her into violence, all just to gain a tactical advantage. While it could bring down Tony, it also risks an innocent woman's life. Sheriff struggles with using someone emotionally involved in a case, blurring the lines between justice and manipulation.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to my lecturer and my fellow friends. Today, I am SYZEERA Binti RIDWAN and I'll be presenting two parts of the slide. Firstly, Tony action based on theological point of view. Theological ethic focus on outcome or consequences of action. If the result is considered good, then the action is justified, even if the method is unethical. In the movie we chosen, which is Sheriff Narko Integriti, the villain, which is Tony, a cartel leader, may justify his involvement in drug trafficking and corruption by focusing on personal benefit as the outcome. So the justification based on the outcomes means that he believed that by controlling the drug operation, he maintained order and gained wealth, which he may use to help his own family or fund personal causes. In terms of moral ethics, even though the method include violence, bribery, and manipulation, from a theological view, he sees this as a necessary for achieving a desired goal, such as power, stability, or wealth. For example, let's say that he bribed official to avoid bloodshed. He may believe that the bribe is justified because of the consequences, which is no gain war is better than the alternative. In the nutshell, Tony action, though unethical in process, are justified in his mind through perceived positive outcome aligning with the theological view. Moving on to the next slide. Okay. Sheriff action based on the ontological point of view. So the ontological ethic focus on duty, rules, and moral obligation, regardless of the outcome. In this movie, the hero, which is the sheriff himself, act based on moral duty and integrity. Firstly, duty over outcome. Even if his action put him or his loved one at risk, he continued to uphold the law, exposing corruption and rejecting bribes. He believed in doing the right thing because it was right, not because of what he may gain or what he may lose. His moral principles, such as he followed ethical codes like loyalty, honesty, justice, without compromise, even when facing personal or professional loss. To illustrate, rejecting bribe to cover up the drug ring, even though accepting it could have given him financial security or save himself from danger, he chose to reject it. So to summarize, sheriff decisions are guided by strong moral value and sense of duty, regardless of the consequences, aligning with the deontological perspective. So that's all for me. Let's move on to the next presenter.
My name is NADHIRA and we are moving on to the golden rule. If I were in the villain shoes in Sheriff Narko Integriti, I would have chosen to uphold justice and integrity instead of falling into the trap of corruption and drug syndicate. The golden rule teaches us to treat others how you want to be treated. I would not want to see my loved one harmed by drug, criminals, or betrayal. As a police officer, I have the power and responsibility to protect society. I should have used my position to fight against the dark network and support honest officers like Sheriff. I would have reported the corruption within the force and become part of the solution instead of the problem. Moving on to the feelings of villains. If I made the same unethical choices as the villain, I would feel deep remorse for betraying my oath, my team, and my nation. I would carry guilt knowing that my action contributed to addiction, broken families, and innocent life lost. The trust people had in me as an officer would be destroyed, and that would be bring an unbearable weight of shame.
To conclude our presentation, the lesson learned from this movie is clear that the movie Sharif Narko Integrity served as a powerful ethical mirror reflecting the harsh reality of integrity, corruption, and personal sacrifice within law enforcement. Sheriff Hussein's unshakable moral compass and his willingness to uphold justice even when faced with betrayal, danger, and emotional loss highlight the immense value of principled leadership. One of the key lessons we learn is that doing the right thing often comes with personal costs, but true integrity means standing firm regardless of the consequences. Sheriff chose law, duty, and honor over comfort or safety, reminding us ethics must guide our decision, especially when the pressure is high. On the other hand, the fall of Ton Ifrit illustrates that the dangers of using unethical means to justify one's goal. His teleological mindset, where the ends justify the means, eventually led to destruction, showing us temporary gain cannot excuse permanent damage. Lastly, the movie teaches us that accountability and courage are essential for real change. When people in power choose to act with honesty and transparency, the society becomes safer, fairer, and more trustworthy. That is all from us. Thank you.